Hello and welcome to English Spark Official. I'm Zayden, joined as always by Alara.
Hey everyone! We're so excited about today's topic.
So today we are looking at something that is honestly an absolute masterclass in stealth education.
Yeah, stealth is definitely the right word for it.
Right. We managed to get our hands on this highly specific internal blueprint. It's basically a script writing and pedagogical guide for an educational channel called English Spark Official.
And it is just a fascinating document to read because the entire existence of this guide is dedicated to teaching this notoriously difficult, super academically dense concept in linguistics.
Oh, yeah, it's heavy stuff.
It really is. But they are doing it under this strict, unwavering mandate, like the listener must never, ever feel like they are actually sitting in a classroom.
Which is such a cool approach. The specific mission of this document and the channel is to teach a concept that they call suprasegmental secrets, or the hidden music of English.
Right.
And our mission for this deep dive today is to basically tear into this blueprint, line by line. We want to understand exactly how these educators are building these foundational rhythm and pronunciation skills, specifically for A2 to B2 language learners.
Yeah, that target audience is key here.
Exactly. So we are going to look at the psychological tricks, the conversational architecture, and really the hidden mechanics of how you take a terrifying academic concept and just translate it into a completely casual, everyday conversation.
Which, that is an incredibly high-wire act for any educator or writer to try and pull off.
Definitely.
You are dealing with an audience, these A2 to B2 learners, who already have a massive cognitive load. They're just trying to translate basic vocabulary in real time.
Right. Their brains are already working in overdrive.
Yeah.
And I want to point out right at the top of the show, even if you're listening to this right now and you aren't actively learning English, or, even if English is your native language, the rules laid out in this blueprint are absolutely going to change how you view human communication.
Oh, 100%.
Because what this document reveals in glaring neon letters is that the way we actually speak to each other in the real world is nothing like the neat, orderly grammar trees we were all handed in middle school.
It completely shatters the illusion of textbook language. It just throws it out the window.
So let's start with the core subject of the blueprint, the thing they are actually trying to teach. The title uses this massive, incredibly intimidating word, suprasegmentals.
Yes, the dreaded S word.
Right. And I consider myself a fairly well-read person. But if you drop the word suprasegmental in a casual conversation, I'm honestly going to assume you're talking about a type of centipede or some weird architectural feature on a Gothic church.
That's a fair assumption.
So what is it, actually? What does that mean?
Well, it's a term that strikes fear into the hearts of linguistics undergrads everywhere, honestly. But to put it really simply, segmentals are the individual puzzle pieces of language. So the specific vowels and consonants.
Like the actual sounds.
Right. The B sound, the ah sound, the T sound, those are segmentals. So suprasegmentals are everything that happens above those individual pieces.
Because super literally means above.
Exactly. We are talking about the overarching features of speech. So that's stress, tone, pitch, word juncture, and intonation.
Okay, I think I'm following, but give me an example of that in action so I can actually hear it.
Sure. Think about the sentence, I didn't say he stole the money.
Okay, 7 words.
Right. Now, the segmentals, the actual words, and the syllables, they never change. But the suprasegmentals change the entire meaning of the sentence based on where you place the stress.
Okay, lay it on me.
So if I say, I didn't say he stole the money, the implication is that someone else said it.
Oh, right, because you stressed the word I.
Yeah.
But if you say, I didn't say he stole the money, then the implication is maybe he just borrowed it or found it.
Exactly. Or you could say, I didn't say he stole the money, maybe he stole the car.
Wow.
The words are completely identical. The grammar is identical. But the meaning shifts entirely based on the melody, the pitch, and the stress.
That is wild.
It really is the emotional weight of the language.
Yeah.
It dictates the pacing, the rhythm, the natural flow. And that whole package, that is suprasegmental phonology.
So it's basically the actual lifeblood of the language. But the blueprint explicitly rebrands this.
Yes, they do.
It dictates that the writers must take this massive academic concept and refer to it purely as the hidden music of English. And reading through this, that isn't just a cute marketing tagline. It's the foundational pedagogical rule of the entire document.
It is the golden rule.
The text explicitly mandates avoid complex academic jargon without explanation.
And we really have to look at the psychology behind why the authors of this guide are so uncompromising on that specific rule. As we mentioned, this blueprint is targeting A2 to B2 learners.
Right.
To put that in perspective for you, an A2 learner is an upper beginner, so they can handle basic routine exchanges, like ordering food at a restaurant or asking for directions to the train station.
Basically survival English.
Exactly. A B2 learner is upper intermediate, so they have some fluency, but they will still really struggle with abstract nuance or complex technical discussions.
So their working memory is already operating at near maximum capacity, just trying to parse the basic vocabulary of whatever you're saying.
Precisely. It comes down to cognitive load theory. You have intrinsic load, which is the actual difficulty of the subject itself. And then you have extraneous load, which is how the subject is presented.
Okay, so the presentation matters just as much as the topic.
It matters huge amounts. If you hit an A2 learner with a term like suprasegmental, or if you start lecturing them about, falling intonation on weak questions versus rising intonation on yes-no questions.
Which just sounds exhausting.
It is. You are massively increasing that extraneous cognitive load. Their brain simply hits a wall, the working memory gets overwhelmed, and they just stop processing the new information entirely.
I always think about like trying to teach someone music theory when they just want to learn how to play a song on the acoustic guitar around a campfire.
Oh, that's a perfect way to look at it.
Right, because if you sit a beginner down and before they even get to touch the strings, you start diagramming Mixolydian scales and diminished seventh chords and polyrhythms.
They're going to completely freeze up.
Yeah. They'll just put the guitar right back in the case and walk away.
Yeah.
But if you say, hey, listen to the hidden music in this blues riff, just feel the rhythm of it and try to copy what my hands are doing.
Suddenly the barrier to entry just vanishes.
Exactly. They're actually playing music.
I really like that analogy, but I think I would refine it just slightly.
Okay, go for it.
It's not just about making it approachable so that they don't quit. It's really about the sequence of learning. You don't teach the mathematical theory of a scale before the physical sensation of playing it.
Oh, I see.
The physical sensation actually anchors the theory later on. By calling it hidden music, the authors of the blueprint are basically signaling to the learner's brain, hey, you don't need to analyze this logically yet. You just need to listen and feel the beat.
That makes total sense.
Right.
But here is the challenge that really jumps out at me when I read through this blueprint.
What's that?
The writers still have to teach the underlying mechanics, right? I mean, you can't just speak in baby talk and metaphors for a full 25-minute audio track and expect someone to actually master English rhythm.
No, you definitely can't.
Eventually, you do have to introduce difficult concepts. So how does this script writing guide ensure that the learners don't just get left behind when a complex idea inevitably have to be addressed?
It handles this with a very specific, really clever structural constraint. The document dictates that the script must start with simple vocabulary and then gradually increase the difficulty.
Okay, standard scaffolding.
Right. But the absolute key directive, and it's bolded in the text, is this. Any difficult word must be explained naturally in conversation.
So no dictionary definitions.
None. You cannot pause the show to sound like a professor reading from Webster's dictionary.
Let's visualize that for a second. How do you actually define a complex linguistic term naturally without sounding like a walking encyclopedia?
Well, the blueprint uses two host characters to do this. Their names are Zayden and Alara, and they are characterized as these modern, friendly 20 to 30-somethings.
Very relatable, very casual.
Exactly. So if the lesson requires introducing the word intonation, Alara cannot just turn to the mic and say, Zayden, today we will study intonation, which is the rise and fall of the voice in speaking.
Right, because that directly violates the rule.
Yes. It immediately spikes that extraneous cognitive load we were talking about earlier. It sounds exactly like a lecture.
So what do they do instead?
The scriptwriter has to engineer a scenario where the definition is just woven into an organic observation between the two of them.
Oh, okay. You mean an example?
So Zayden might say something like, it's so funny how your voice naturally goes up at the end of a sentence when you're surprised.
Ah, I see.
And then Alara responds, oh, yeah. Like, you're asking a question even if you aren't using question words. That change in your voice, that melody, that's what we call intonation.
Man, the architecture there is brilliant. The learner gets to experience the phenomenon first. They hear the observation and they internally agree with it.
Exactly.
And then only after the concept is fully understood and visualized in their mind, the host just casually slapped the vocabulary label onto it.
It is so smooth. And it's deeply rooted in the linguistic theory of comprehensible input, which was championed by this famous linguist named Stephen Krashen.
A comprehensible input. What's the core idea there?
The core idea is that humans acquire language in only one way, by understanding messages. Not by studying rules, but by understanding meaning.
Wow.
So the blueprint is deliberately forcing the scriptwriters to build this linguistic environment where the learner feels grounded and totally safe. The text even mandates that the sentences have to be clear, smooth, and easy to follow.
So instead of the learner feeling like they're sitting in this rigid, terrifying academic lecture hall where we're professors trying to test them.
Right, with a red pen in hand.
Exactly. They just feel like they're hanging out with two friends at a coffee shop who happen to be pointing out some cool things about how people talk.
Which is exactly what the authors of the guide are aiming for. They are absolutely teaching the anatomy of the language, but they are completely disguising the scalpel.
Disguising the scalpel. I love that.
Yeah.
Okay, so that establishes the what. They are teaching this hidden music, this overarching rhythm, and they're doing it through disguised definitions.
Yep.
But where this blueprint goes from being a standard, corporate writing guide to something genuinely radical, in my opinion, is in the how.
Oh, the execution is where it gets really interesting.
Because the transition from these theoretical rules to practical audio delivery is just fascinating.
The mandate on tone is arguably the strictest part of the entire document. It uses all caps to drill this into the writer's head. The dialogue must be a natural, human-like conversation. And explicitly not robotic, not textbook.
Now, on the surface, that sounds kind of obvious, right? Like every writer on Earth wants their dialogue to sound natural. Nobody sits down at a keyboard and says, I think I'm going to write a really robotic, awful script today.
Right, that's not the goal.
But this blueprint defines natural in a way that actively demands what traditional language teachers would consider to be outright mistakes.
You're pointing to the conversation rules section.
Yes. The guide forces the writers to include, and I'm quoting directly from the text here, interruptions, reactions, agreement.
Yes.
Zaid and Alara are literally, legally mandated by this document to interrupt each other. And my immediate reaction to that was, wait a minute, aren't interruptions considered incredibly rude?
In polite society, sure.
Right. So if you are trying to teach an A2 learner how to speak English clearly, why on earth would an educational blueprint demand that the hosts step all over each other's sentences?
Well, to understand why that is so crucial, we really have to look at the vast canyon that exists between classroom English and real-world English.
Okay, lay it out for me.
Think about how dialogue is structured in a traditional A2 textbook. It is perfectly sequential. Person A speaks a full, grammatically flawless sentence, full stop.
Right.
Then person B waits exactly one beat and then delivers a perfectly constructed reply. Full stop.
It's the classic terrible audio track. Hello, John. How are you today?
Exactly.
I am fine, Mary. Thank you. And how are you? It's basically ping-pong. I hit the ball to your side of the table, and I wait in total silence with my hands at my sides until you hit it back.
That is a great visual, but it is a sterile, entirely fictional version of human communication. Real conversation is not ping-pong.
What is it then?
It is cooperative jazz, it is overlapping, it's messy, and it's constantly adjusting in real time. When you are excited, or when you strongly agree with the point I am making, you do not sit in dead silence waiting for me to hit the period at the end of my sentence.
No, I definitely don't.
You inject little vocalizations. You say, yeah, or right, or while I'm actively still talking.
I'm literally doing it right now.
You are, and in linguistics, this is known as backchanneling.
Backchanneling. I absolutely love having a technical term for something we all just do subconsciously.
It's a vital mechanism of conversation, and it's really important to distinguish between competitive overlap.
Which is what?
That's an aggressive interruption where I am actually trying to steal the floor from you.
Oh, like cable news debate.
Exactly. That's competitive. But you have to contrast that with cooperative overlap, which is what backchanneling is. Cooperative overlap is a sign of deep, active listening.
Okay, so it's a supportive thing.
Very supportive. It is the listener signaling to the speaker, I am with you, I understand, please keep going. And it's fascinating because different cultures use backchanneling in very different ways.
Really? Like how?
Well, in Japanese, for instance, the concept of aizuchi, which is the frequent interjection of agreement during a conversation, that is considered absolutely essential to politeness. If you don't do it, you're seen as cold or unengaged.
But in a traditional English classroom, it is completely scrubbed out.
Entirely. Because textbooks prioritize grammatical clarity over communicative reality. They want clean audio.
Sure, they want you to hear every single consonant perfectly.
But the authors of this blueprint recognize a fundamental truth. Back-channeling, these tiny cooperative interruptions and reactions, they are the rhythm of casual English.
They are the hidden music.
Exactly. If you strip the overlapping agreement out of a script, you strip the language of its natural cadence.
So what happens to the A2 learner who has only ever been trained on the ping-pong method, the textbook method?
It's actually really sad. They spend 2 years in a classroom listening to this sterile, turn-based dialogue, and then they finally take that dream trip to London or New York.
And they walk into a busy coffee shop.
And it is a profound neurological shock. They experience total cognitive overload. And it's not because they don't know the vocabulary, it's because the rhythm is completely alien to them.
Wow, because nobody's talking like the textbook tape.
Nobody. They are standing at the register waiting for the clean 1-second pause that signals it is their turn to speak. But in a busy New York coffee shop, that pause is never ever going to come.
That is terrifying for a learner. So the blueprint is effectively saying, look, we have an ethical obligation to teach them the messiness.
Yes.
We cannot protect them from the chaos of real speech. We have to model it for them in a safe, controlled environment.
That is precisely why the document has a strict rule completely outlawing long monologues.
Right, I saw that.
If the scriptwriter allows Zayden to just talk for 90 seconds straight, explaining some concept without Alara jumping in to say, wait, really? Or, oh, I totally see what you mean.
It destroys the entire pedagogical goal.
Exactly. Because a long monologue forces the other host into a purely passive role, and by extension, it forces the listener into a passive role too.
The rhythm of real English isn't found in a solitary Shakespearean speech. It's found in the volley.
The volley is everything.
It's in the rapid-fire exchange of ideas, the shared jokes, the immediate overlapping reactions.
By enforcing these specific conversational rules, the interruptions, the reactions, the blueprint guarantees that the A2 to B2 learners are hearing the true, unvarnished melody of the language. It physically prepares their brains for the reality of human interaction.
It is just such a radical departure from traditional education. Yeah. It's almost as if the script is trying to actively untrain the rigid habits that learners pick up in normal schools.
It really is an untraining process.
It's telling them, hey, forget the polite, silent classroom. Pay attention to how humans actually connect out on the street.
Yes.
But this immediately raises a massive logistical question for me. It is one thing to sit back and listen to Zayden and Alara playfully interrupt each other on an audio track.
Right.
But how does the listener actually develop those rhythm skills themselves? Because you can't exactly practice cooperative overlap with a pre-recorded podcast. You can't interrupt an MP3.
No, you can't. And that is the central puzzle of asynchronous learning, isn't it? How do you practice a two-way street on a one-way road? And that brings us to the structural mechanics built into the blueprint. The authors don't just want the listener to be a passive audience member soaking in the messiness. They have designed an entire architecture around active physical participation.
Okay, you're talking about the listening and learning features section.
Yes, that section is critical.
Because this part of the guide lists out mandatory tools the writers must include. It mentions repetition of key phrases, shadowing practice, which it describes as prompts saying, repeat after me, and listening focus cues like listen carefully.
I want to focus heavily on that second tool, shadowing.
Okay. What exactly is shadowing? I've heard the term, but...
In the realm of language acquisition, shadowing is arguably the most powerful neurological tool you can possibly employ. It was actually popularized by this brilliant linguist named Alexander Arguelles.
Okay.
Shadowing is the practice of listening to a piece of target language audio and simultaneously, or within a fraction of a second, echoing it back out loud.
So it isn't just listening and translating the words silently in your head.
No, not at all. It is physical production. It is a deeply physical act. It engages the motor cortex of the brain.
Oh, wow.
When you shadow, you are forced to bypass the analytical, grammar-translating part of your brain entirely. You literally don't have time to stop and think about subject-verb agreement.
Because the audio just keeps moving.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You are purely engaging your muscle memory. You are training your tongue, your jaw, and your vocal cords to physically hit the stresses and the pitch variations that the native speaker just modeled for you.
It honestly makes me think of a dance class.
How so?
Well, you can stand at the back of the dance studio and watch the instructors flawlessly execute the salsa for 3 hours straight, right? And you can intellectually understand the steps. Left foot here, right foot there.
Yeah.
But you do not know how to dance until you actually move your own feet.
That is so true.
And at some point, the instructor has to stop the music, point directly at you, and say, okay, your turn. Step to the beat.
That captures the dynamic absolutely perfectly. The shadowing cues in the script are the instructors pointing at the listener and pulling them onto the dance floor.
But here's where my brain gets a little stuck on the actual execution of this blueprint.
What's the sticking point?
If Zayden and Alara are having this highly natural, really messy, overlapping conversation filled with all this backchanneling, how do you suddenly inject a rigid classroom drill like repeat after me without completely shattering the illusion?
It's tough.
Because the guide insists everything has to feel natural. Doesn't stopping the casual banter to do a shadowing drill break the fourth wall and just completely ruin the vibe?
It is an incredibly delicate balancing act for the scriptwriter, and the blueprint solves it with this brilliant but easily overlooked constraint regarding how pauses are handled.
Okay, I think I remember this part.
The mandate specifically dictates short pauses, and then in parentheses, written naturally, not timestamps.
Right, I flagged that when I read it too. Written naturally, not timestamps. What does that actually mean in the context of writing an audio script?
Think back to the robotic language courses of the past. The classic tapes, or CDs.
The CDs.
The script for those would literally read, bracket, insert 3-second pause here, end bracket.
Oh, man.
And in the final audio, the host would speak, and then you would hear 3 seconds of jarring, dead room tone. Literally nothing. Sometimes they even added a synthetic beep to indicate it was your turn to speak.
Oh, I hate the beat. It instantly rips you out of the experience. It makes you acutely, painfully aware that you are interacting with a machine. Or taking a highly structured test.
Exactly. It immediately triggers the anxiety of the classroom. But written naturally means the scriptwriter has to engineer the dialogue itself so that the pause feels earned, organic, and conversational.
How do you do that? Give me an example of what that looks like in a script.
Okay, let's say Alara is explaining how words link together in casual speech. She wouldn't say, repeat the following phrase. Beep. She would say something like, so next time you are ordering a coffee, try linking those words together so it sounds really smooth. Listen carefully to how this flows. Can I get a? Can I get a? Now you try it.
Okay, so she gives the prompt to the listener.
Right. And then instead of a dead, time-stamped void of silence, Zayden might leave a natural beat, just enough time for the listener to mumble it out loud wherever they are, before he chimes in with, yeah, exactly like that. It just glides together.
Oh, that is incredibly clever. The silence isn't dead air, it's actual conversational space.
Yes.
The hosts are literally holding space in the room for the listener to talk.
The listener becomes the unspoken third person in the conversation. By using these small interactive questions and these natural pauses, the blueprint prevents the A2 learner from doing what we all do when we listen to audio.
Which is zoning out completely.
Exactly. Passive listening is the enemy of acquiring rhythm. You can have an English podcast playing in your headphones for 8 hours a day while you work, but if you are never forced to physically produce the sounds, your brain eventually just filters it out as background noise.
It's so true. It just becomes an ambient hum.
The active cues are this constant, gentle psychological tether. They continuously pull the learner's attention back to the physical reality of the language. They literally force the learner to step to the beat of the hidden music.
And the writers have to sustain this illusion, this engaging, interactive, highly educational dance for a surprisingly long time. The blueprint mandates that the final voiceover script must be 20 to 25 minutes long.
Which is substantial.
For an A2 or B2 learner, listening to a foreign language for 25 solid minutes is a marathon. It is incredibly taxing on the brain.
It requires immense mental stamina, which is why the macro structure of the lesson is just as tightly controlled as the micro-interactions we've been discussing.
Right. How do you take all of these disparate elements, the simplified vocabulary, the disguised definitions, the overlapping banter, the shadowing practice, and weave them into a single, cohesive 25-minute experience that doesn't just exhaust the listener?
It requires some serious architectural planning behind the scenes, and the blueprint provides it.
Yeah, it has a very specific outline.
The text outlines this mandatory blended format. It demands a hook, a greeting using the English Spark official channel name, an introduction to the topic, a core explanation, a deep dive, daily life examples, a practice section, a recap, an assignment, and a motivational closing line.
It is an incredibly rigorous, linear structure.
It really is. It maps out a complete pedagogical journey from theory to practical application. But And this is perhaps the most fascinating psychological rule in the entire document.
Lay it on me.
The blueprint explicitly commands the writers. Do not label sections explicitly. Everything must feel like a natural conversation.
Now, I have to push back on this a little bit, because if I am learning something complex, I generally want the labels.
You want to know where you are.
Exactly. I rely on clear signposts. I want the instructor to say, okay, we have finished the theory portion.
Yeah.
Now we are moving into the grammar breakdown.
It's comforting.
It is. It helps me organize my notes mentally. It helps my brain prepare for what is coming next. Why would the educators behind this blueprint demand that the structure be hidden from the learner?
I completely understand that instinct. We are all heavily conditioned to crave the syllabus.
Yeah. Give me the bullet points.
But if we connect this back to the core concept of the hidden music, the reasoning for hiding the structure becomes pretty profound. What happens to the rhythm of a natural conversation if you explicitly announce the sections?
Oh, it completely stops the music.
Exactly. The moment Zayden says, and now it is time for our daily life example section, the entire illusion of the casual cafe hangout shatters into a million pieces.
The listener's brain violently shifts gears from casual listening to active, stressful study.
Yes.
And why is that a bad thing? Aren't they supposed to be studying?
Not in a way that triggers anxiety. In linguistics, there is a concept called the affective filter. This is another theory developed by Stephen Krashen, actually.
Okay, the comprehensible input guy. What is the affective filter?
The affective filter is essentially a psychological barrier that prevents language acquisition. When a learner feels stressed, anxious, or hyper-aware that they are being evaluated, like they suddenly realize they are in a formal classroom, their affective filter goes up.
It's like a defense mechanism.
Exactly. The amygdala activates, and the brain literally blocks the comprehensible input from reaching the language acquisition centers.
Wow. So if the host announces, time for the practice quiz, the learner's brain physically clenches up.
Precisely. They tense up. They are no longer absorbing the language naturally. They are just worried about passing a test. They're worried about failing.
That makes so much sense.
By demanding that the section labels remain completely invisible, the blueprint is utilizing the art of invisible pedagogy.
Invisible pedagogy. So, the scriptwriter has to seamlessly blend the hook, the deep dive, and the practical examples into the narrative flow without ever letting the seams show.
It's all about cognitive framing. Transitioning from the abstract core explanation to the daily life examples shouldn't be a formal announcement.
Right.
It should simply be Alara saying something like, you know, this actually happened to me at the grocery store yesterday.
Oh, that is so smooth.
Yeah.
And suddenly, without even realizing a transition has occurred, the listener is deeply immersed in the daily life examples module.
Exactly. They are absorbing the structural application of the language naturally, completely bypassing that formal, rigid classroom anxiety.
The best analogy I can think of for this is a masterfully designed video game tutorial.
Oh, I like where this is going.
Think about the first level of a really great game. You think you are just playing the game right. You're exploring the world, you're running from the bad guys, having fun. But in reality, the environment is a highly controlled, secretly restricted space. It's designed to teach you exactly what the jump button does and how the physics engine works. You are learning the complex mechanics, but you never feel like you are sitting down to read an instruction manual.
That is a brilliant way to look at it. The structure is absolutely there, doing all the heavy lifting in the background. But the player, or the listener in this case, is never allowed to see the scaffolding.
It respects the listener's intelligence.
It really does. It provides a robust, logical progression of ideas while simultaneously protecting their affective filter from the anxiety of traditional learning.
It allows the content to flow by its own internal logic. It's driven by curiosity and natural association rather than an arbitrary, stressful syllabus.
Exactly.
So as we kind of zoom out and look at everything we've unpacked today about this document, what we are really looking at here is a manifesto. It's a manifesto for a completely revolutionized way of teaching and acquiring language.
It truly is.
To master these suprasegmental secrets, to truly unlock the hidden music of English. This blueprint insists that you do not need to memorize dense academic jargon.
No, you don't.
You do not need a professor standing at a chalkboard diagramming sentences for you.
What you need is comprehensible input delivered through relatable human examples. You need active, physical shadowing practice where you are given conversational space to try, to stumble, and to try again.
Without the pressure of a ticking clock or a harsh grading rubric.
Exactly. And perhaps most fundamentally, you need exposure to the messy, interrupted, beautifully rhythmic reality of genuine human interaction.
Yeah.
The stumbles, the overlapping agreements, the backchanneling, the quick reactions, none of that is bad English. That is the actual music of the language.
And this philosophy, it extends so far beyond just learning English as a second language.
Oh, absolutely. It applies to everyone.
Whether you are an A2 learner, struggling to string your first conversational sentences together, or you are a native speaker who has spoken the language for 50 years and is just trying to be a more empathetic, effective communicator in your daily life, understanding this hidden music is absolutely vital.
It really is. The pauses we deliberately leave for others to step into, the subconscious sounds of agreement we make to show someone we are truly listening to them.
Right. The mhms and the, yeah.
Exactly. The specific pacing and melody we use when we tell a story to a friend, that is just as important, and honestly, often vastly more important than the strict dictionary definitions of the vocabulary we choose to use.
The vocabulary words are really just the lyrics written on a piece of paper.
Yeah. But the rhythm, the intonation, the cooperative overlap, that is the melody that makes the song actually worth listening to.
Wow.
When we try to communicate like textbooks, perfectly structured, relentlessly sequential, and utterly sterile, we strip the warmth and the humanity right out of the interaction.
We really do. So I want to leave you with a final thought to mull over today. You know, something that builds on exactly what we've discovered inside this educational blueprint.
It's a great takeaway.
If the true expertly designed method for mastering human communication requires practicing interruptions and deliberately avoiding perfect robotic monologues, maybe the next time you stumble over your words in a meeting, or the next time you excitedly talk over a friend because you just so strongly agree with what they're saying.
Right, that cooperative overlap.
Exactly. Maybe you shouldn't feel embarrassed. Maybe you aren't making a conversational mistake at all. Maybe you are just perfectly executing the real, messy, hidden music of human connection.